movie begins when Ben and Louise go to Italy for a vacation. Ben is first sitting around the pool when Paddy asks him for the extra lounger sitting close to him. Later, Ben notices Paddy and his wife dancing in their room, having a really fun time together. The next time, all the guests in the hotel take their food together. The Spanish couple keeps talking about their food expertise, which annoys Ben and Louise. Paddy notices this and makes funny gestures. Later that day, Ben and Louise's daughter, Agnes, forgets her little teddy somewhere. Ben has to go all around the hotel, which really annoys him, but at the same time, he notices Paddy, who is roaming around the city and enjoying himself to the fullest. A while later, he finds the teddy and returns with it, seeing Louise and Agnes standing with Paddy and his wife. After a formal introduction, Paddy offers Agnes a ride on his bike, which she excitedly accepts. Afterwards, Paddy talks to them about having lunch at a nice new place he knows. They reach there in time, and Paddy entertains them with little jokes. He shares that he is a doctor who left his practice to enjoy life the way he likes. They also have a son with a rare disease, which is why he can't interact with anyone. Ben shares that he recently moved to London and is in the initial phase of his new job, while Louise is not really doing anything yet. Suddenly, they see the Spanish couple ready to join them at their table and bore them. So, Ben makes some distasteful toilet jokes, and they go their own way. That same night, once again the two couples and their kids have dinner together and exchange their addresses. Soon, Ben and Louise return to their London home, but they are not yet quite settled in the new city. Ben looks at Louise from a distance, texting someone, and feels very angry. He puts Agnes to sleep and sits with Louise. She knows what is on Ben's mind and offers to show him the texts, but he refuses. She shows him the new postcard that Paddy sent them, inviting them to his home for the weekend. Louise dislikes the idea of visiting strangers, but knowing that Ben is interested, she agrees just to please him. So that weekend, they start towards Paddy's home, and after a very long drive, Ben thinks he is lost. At last, they reach the house after noticing specific landmarks. They park their car, and Paddy and Kira welcome them into their home. Paddy offers them homemade apple wine, while Kira shows Agnes her room, which she will share with their son, and the room looks very inappropriate for a child, but Louise leaves Agnes there. Afterwards, Paddy shares that he cut the golden goose from their farm for today and chops a bite to give to Louise. She is a vegan, and despite Paddy knowing that, he forces a bite into Louise's mouth. She pretends to eat, but then takes the bite out of her mouth and hides it. Ben goes out of the house after dinner, and Paddy's son tries to show him something in his mouth, which Ben does not understand. Meanwhile, Paddy arrives and quickly takes Ant away. After a little chit-chat, Ben and Louise go to their room to sleep. Louise dislikes the dirty bed linen and the way Paddy forced food into her mouth. Afraid of the new place, Agnes comes to their room and wishes to sleep with them along with her teddy named Hoppy. The next morning, Paddy takes them for a little walk, and they sit around a fire in the woods. Strangely, Ant does not respond when Agnes asks him to move aside from her swing. Behaving oddly, Paddy drags Ant by force and harshly orders him to push the swing, even though Ant does not want to. The anger is subtle, but to hide it, Paddy starts pressing Louise's neck as she complains about pain. A while later, Paddy takes them to a nearby spot and encourages them to swim. Louise and Ben feel a bit awkward, as they were not informed about this activity. But Ben jumps in the water with Paddy and the kids, shouting at both women to jump in too. Louise is surprised to see that Ant is almost drowning. Upon asking, she learns that he does not know how to swim, and then Paddy pulls Ant up a bit from the water. After returning home, Louise expresses her anger, saying that these people are too unpleasant and that they should leave the house today. At the same time, Kira comes to inform them that they have arranged a dinner at a nearby chef spot with everything authentic. Ben cannot say no, despite knowing that Louise doesn't want to stay even for a minute in this place. That night, when they get ready to go, Louise compliments Kira, saying she looks stunning. At the same time, a nanny greets them, and they learn that the kids will not accompany them. Louise has an issue with this, but Ben silences her. Paddy drives very roughly on the road, and the place is a bit far away. At the dinner table, Kira shares that they are very attached and loving towards each other. They have been together for the past 17 years, and it has been a pleasant journey. She tells them that she was raised in a childcare home and that Paddy also does not know his parents, as they left him. Louise is surprised to learn this, as Kira looks barely in her 20s. On the other hand, Ant and Agnes play hide and seek with the nanny. Ant secretly shows Agnes a watch and asks her to read the words on it. She cannot read the foreign language letters but can read Ant's name written on the back of the watch. Before the nanny can find them, Ant shuts the drawer after putting back the watch and moves away. The dinner lasts late into the night. Back in their room, before going to sleep, Ant shows Agnes his bruises. Meanwhile, when Paddy puts back his watch, he notices that a watch is slightly out of its exact place. Louise is very angry about staying in this house for one more day. However, she is agreeing to whatever Ben says because she made a mistake by texting loving messages to her father at Agnes's school. That happened 6 months ago, and despite her apologizing many times, Ben is still not acting normally. Ben apologizes, and they hug each other. That night, Louise wakes up and goes to check on Agnes in her room, but to her surprise, both Ant and Agnes are not in the room. She finds Agnes sleeping with Kira in Paddy and Kira's bed, and she gets very angry. They sort everything out at that moment and decide to leave. But on the way, Agnes remembers that she forgot Hoppy and that she can't go home without it. Ben searches in his luggage and angrily shouts. At that moment, he narrowly avoids crashing the car into a truck. Ultimately, Ben decides to return to get Hoppy. Ben tells them to wait and goes to get Hoppy. But Kira and Paddy are already awake. Paddy gets very angry about Ben leaving without telling them. Ben cannot explain the reason, and then Louise comes in and says she saw Agnes sleeping with Kira, and that was a line they crossed. With teary eyes, Paddy shares that they lost a baby girl last year, and ever since, Kira has been so disturbed. Louise and Ben instantly regret misjudging them and ask them to stay a little longer to see their chickens. Louise and Kira sit with the kids on the lawn when Ant writes something to Agnes. But since it is in another language, she cannot understand it. Seeing Kira coming toward him, Ant crumples the piece of paper. Paddy takes Ben for a drive, and they stop at a place to hunt. He tells Ben that he heard them arguing last night and knows that his wife was texting another guy. He wants to relieve his stress, so Paddy takes him to a spot and asks Ben to shout to release the anger inside. Ben does this and feels better. Upon returning, Louise accidentally cuts her hand while helping Kira with cooking. Ben asks Paddy to help, as he told them he is a doctor. But Paddy reveals that he is not a doctor and does nothing at all as a life choice. This stuns them, but he laughs and says he was joking. At lunch outside at their tables, Kira repeatedly scolds Agnes for chewing with her mouth open. Louise stops her angrily for scolding her daughter. After lunch, Agnes wants to show the dance she prepared with Ant. They start to dance, but Paddy keeps telling them to start over as he feels Ant is not moving his legs properly. Louise is disturbed to see Paddy's harsh behavior toward the kids' little dance activity, and Agnes, feeling dejected, refuses to dance. However, she does it one last time at Ben's insistence, and she starts crying, getting disheartened. Paddy makes fun of his own son, which is strange for Ben and Louise to see. Louise takes Ben aside and tells him to drive away right away, as she wants to leave now. But Ben refuses, saying he has had a little too much to drink and needs coffee. Meanwhile, and finds a chance to steal the keys from Paddy while he is asleep, as he wants to show Agnes something. Afterwards, he asks her to play with a ball and throw it down toward the room he wants to show her. He unlocks the door and enters the secret room under the floor. The room is full of luggage, kids' bags, and family pictures, and shows Agnes a notebook with pictures of each family that ever came here and never left. In fact, Ant is a son of such a family. Paddy chooses a kid from each family to keep with them and kills the parents. He tells Agnes in sign language that Paddy cut his tongue to stop him from expressing himself. He leaves the door unlocked and advises Agnes to tell everything to her parents. But as Agnes goes to return the keys, Paddy is already awake. Paddy doesn't notice the missing keys and wants to show his guests that he loves Ant. Just as he puts Ant on his back, Ant hangs the keys back onto Paddy's belt. Agnes makes a little cut on her thigh, pretending that she has gotten her first period. Just as Louise goes inside the washroom with her, Agnes shows her all the pictures of the different families that she took from the notebook. Louise leaves Agnes there and cries, thinking about what to do. Meanwhile, Paddy notices that the lid of the hidden room is slightly displaced. Louise excuses herself from Ben and tells him to check on Agnes in the washroom. They decide to pretend everything is normal and tell Paddy that they are leaving, as Agnes is feeling overwhelmed after having her first period. As they come outside, they see that the car tire is flat, but Paddy offers to repair it in a minute. They try not to look afraid, and Agnes whispers in Ant's ear that they will take him away. Ben gets terrified to see a lot of dangerous tools in Paddy's warehouse, but he repairs the tire. Just as they get ready to go, Paddy reminds them that they are missing Hoppy, which is on the rooftop. He brings a ladder and asks Ben to get Hoppy for his daughter. Ben brings it back, and Paddy asks them to tell him honestly about their hospitality. At that point, Louise spills the truth: they won't invite them to their house, as she thinks she will leave Ben. He dragged her here, and she came. She cheated, but her apology will never be enough, so she will leave. They were planning to take Ant with them at the gate when he goes to open it, but Paddy opens the gate using the remote. Just as they take the turn, Paddy throws Ant into the water. To save him from drowning, Ben stops the car and jumps into the water. He saves Ant, but by that time, Paddy has brought a gun. He takes them to the secret room, transfers money from their bank account, and is ready to inject sedatives into Louise when she attacks him with the paper blade that she hid while leaving. Then she grabs the gun, and Ant gets the keys. They lock Kira and Paddy in the room and get in the car to leave. Just as they are about to cross the gate, Mark stops them at gunpoint and fires a bullet at the car. He is the dealer who was supposed to sell Ben's car after Paddy kills him. The whole family returns home, locks themselves inside a room, and calls emergency services. But by the time Mike unlocks Paddy and Kira, Kira cuts the phone line. They see a picture map of the house and plan to set the barn on fire. Ben sets an apple wine bottle on fire and throws it at the barn, but it falls on Paddy's car, and it starts burning. Louise leaves both kids in the bathroom cupboard and advises them to keep silent until they hear her voice. She searches for something useful to kill Paddy and Mark. She gets the sulfur cleaning bottle and a sharp knife, while Ben grabs a hammer for his safety and goes to the rooftop, where they hear someone coming. Mark enters the rooftop room while Paddy attacks the door where Louise is hiding. She leaves the room and hides in another room. Meanwhile, Paddy and Kira search for the kids. Paddy opens the cupboard but cannot find the kids behind the curtain. Meanwhile, Louise attacks him with sulfur, which burns his face. She takes the kids upstairs, where Ben is fighting Mark, but Mark overpowers him. At the same time, Louise hits Mark's head with the hammer and kills him. She quickly goes upstairs with her family to escape from the house, but Ben tells Kira to follow and kill them. She aims at the kids and Ben from the window when Louise attacks her with a brick. Kira falls out of the window and dies. With that, the ladder also falls down, but Ben jumps down from the roof to fix the ladder, hitting his legs badly. However, he manages to fix the ladder and everyone gets down safely. They tell the kids to get in the car first. But Paddy puts the gun to Agnes's head and says that after Kira's death, he will keep her with him to take care of her. Just as he is about to shoot them, Agnes injects the ketamine that she has been holding in her hand. It instantly sedates Ben, and he falls down. They are free to go now and decide to leave Paddy alive, but an angry ant hits him in the head many times with a rock and kills him, shouting in rage. The whole family leaves safely, and the movie ends here.